Today, I just wanted to walk you through basically three questions. I'm going to keep this very simple today. And the first one is, what am I optimizing for? What am I optimizing for? And I think another way that you can ultimately put that is, what's the game that I'm trying to win? I was thinking about people and questions to help them uncover purpose and ultimately whys, right? Because that's something that people struggle with, this idea of my big why. And I was driving home on Thursday from my free life in Atlanta. I landed at like 9 o'clock, and then the airport's like an hour from my house. And so I was driving home thinking about, how do we help people tap into that, into their purpose, their calling, their why? And so one thing that came to mind was, what's the game that you're trying to win? What is it that you are optimizing for? And keep in mind, that doesn't have to be business. Business is the athletic sport of some. And yet I do believe we are all the making of spiritual athletes, that when you think about fulfillment ultimately comes from the sculpting of your soul. But another question that came to mind when I was thinking about this was, what is it that you have to be the best at? What is it that you have to be the best at? Like, it's a skill or something that you just can't help but attempt to get better at it. Now, that may be being a parent, being a spouse. Again, it doesn't always have to relate to business, but what is it that you want to be the best at? And if you're shooting really high, I would maybe even add a phrase or a word to that. What is it that you want to be the best at the world in? Or what do you want to be the best at the world at? So a couple of questions there. What are you optimizing for? What is it that you want to be the best at? And what's the game that you're ultimately attempting to win? What's interesting is, I hear a lot about people and comparing themselves to, I'm the lion, right? And it's like, I've never understood that. First off, there is no jungle. Lions live out on the savannah, which is open prairie. And then secondly, lions sleep like 20 hours a day. And it kind of hit me, that when people talk about that, I think that that's them calling to that deep inner courage that we all kind of associate to a lion, which I totally understand. I get that, like, makes total sense, because courage is kind of the gatekeeper to all other virtues. If you can't access your courage, then you can't access the other virtues that lie within you. And yet I would start inviting you, for those of you that are, I'm the king of the jungle, or I'm a lion, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's cool and all. But once you learn how to access your courage, I would maybe encourage you to start thinking of yourself a little bit more like a shepherd. Because if you're going to run a business in today's world, it's all about creating a community, whether that's within your own organization or the database, the people that you serve. Creating communities is ultimately what people want. I think that's the reason that boss babes and modern men and those types of things are so popular right now, is that people want that sense of community. But you do that by tending to your flock, right? And when you're a lion, lions don't really tend to their flock all that much, especially if you study male lions. So, if that's your spirit animal, good for you. But I would encourage you to maybe start thinking a little bit about that differently. I build community, and then I tend to my flock. I am a shepherd. So take it or leave that one. Here's another one. How is my fear of judgment making my life and the lives of those I care about harder? How is my fear of judgment making my life and the lives of those I care about harder? We care too much about what people think of us. The problem is that people don't walk around with subtitles scrolling across their head that narrate their inner conversation, their inner chatter. You never actually know what people are thinking of you. Very few people have the courage to ask. And at the end of the day, I was doing yoga on Friday, and every time I'm in there, I have the hardest time because I can't take a notepad, because it's like hot yoga and there's sweat everywhere. But I had a question that came to me around this. And I think it's not really a question, it's a statement, but the thinking of other people is not fatal to you. What other people think of you actually has no impact on your health. It's not fatal to you. But you are creating in your mind an assumption that people, one, are thinking about you. Number two, that they're thinking negatively about you. And then number three, that has something to do with your life force. It doesn't. It doesn't. And you all have heard the cliche that, what people think of you is none of your business. And I would invite you to start living that way. And I can promise you one thing, nobody's thinking about you. Because most people are so caught up in their own bullshit, they don't even have the ability to think about you. And even if they are, and let's just say that they don't like you, here's what I also know about people is that most people can't even muster enough strength and courage to like themselves. How could they possibly like you? They can't give you what they don't have. I had a guy reach out to me over the weekend and he was asking me, I can't stand it when people call me or email me and they're like, what book should I read? And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't even know who you are. And so I started asking him questions. And the thing that he was telling me is that, he suffers from perfectionism. Here's what I know about perfectionism. It serves a purpose, which is to protect you from or provide you with. Protect you from or provide you with. And so I asked him, I said, what is it that perfectionism protects you from? What is it that you're hoping to avoid by practicing perfectionism? And of course, we get into the judgment and the thinking of other people. And that's when I shared with him the judgment and thinking of other people. One, is none of your business. Two, it is not fatal to your life force. And number three, most people can't muster the strength and courage to like themselves, so they can't do it for you. Stop asking them to give you what they can't give themselves. I don't know if that helped them or not. He seemed a little bit like an ask hole. Ask holes are people that just seek advice for the validation of what they already believe instead of being open-minded to whatever it is that they're asking you about. We'll find out, right? But here's the last question I have for you, and that is, can my current habits carry me to my desired future? Can my current habits carry me to my desired future? So again, habits are just automatic decisions, right? The challenge with habits is that oftentimes they happen under our level of consciousness, meaning we're not aware of them. And if we're not aware of them, we don't always have choice in our habits. And so I had a conversation with a team on Wednesday. They asked me to call in and talk to their team in the morning. They meet every morning at 8 o'clock. And I asked them to do a habit audit. And I asked them to just start thinking about, their current level of habits and start bringing some of the things that they're ultimately, the decisions that they're making automatically into their conscious awareness. And I said, if you look at it, there's 4 classes of habit. And I'm going to walk you all through this really quickly. Each class has 3 criteria. It has 3 levels. Okay. So a class 1 habit, and many of you've heard this before, a class 1 habit is a habit that, 1, feels good, meaning you enjoy doing it. Class 2 is that it's good for you, meaning it's healthy. It helps you grow. And then class 3, because it's good for you, because it helps you grow, it helps you serve the greater good. You have the energy for contribution. That's a class 1 habit. A class 2 habit is, 1, you don't enjoy it, meaning it's something that to you is hard or outside of your comfort zone. 2, it is good for you. It makes you stronger. It makes you healthier. And then number 3, because it makes you stronger, because it makes you healthier, you have the energy for contribution to go out and serve the greater good. That's a class 2 habit. Class 3 is something that, 1, feels good, meaning you enjoy it, you like it. Number 2 is that it's not good for you. It doesn't give you energy. It doesn't contribute. It doesn't make your life force stronger. And so then class 3, you don't necessarily have the energy. It doesn't help you serve the greater good. Then you have class 4, which is just negative all the way across. It's the opposite of a class 1. It's 1, it doesn't feel good. 2, it isn't good for you. And 3, it doesn't help you serve the greater good. And so what I would invite you all to start doing is just looking at your current habits, your decisions, and start classifying them. And when you start doing that, you're going to start to notice that they're weighted into one of the 4 classes, and that will tell you the answer to the question of what type of a life am I living? The challenge today is that so many of us are living class 3 lives. We're caught up in this pleasure trap. In fact, there's a great book that was recommended to me. I went and watched or listened to the podcast with the lady who wrote it, and it's called Dopamine Nation. And we live in this world of just constant pleasure seeking. And the challenge, though, is that that type of seeking ultimately sacrifices us in its pursuit. And there's so much that we can use these classes with. There's so many things that we can ultimately unpack from this idea. But I would invite all of you to start looking through these, or through your current habits, the things that you're ultimately doing throughout the week, throughout your life, and start classifying them. Awareness creates choice. Choice increases performance. Awareness creates choice. Choice increases performance. So I trust that you all will take these questions and, use them as your thinking time, or wherever you do some of your best reflection, and work through them this week. I'd love to hear your answers to them, whether you email them to me or whatever. I told you I was going to bring the fire today. I hope I lived up to my own hype. And as always, if there's anything that we can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out. And I'm looking forward to connecting to many of you on coaching calls this week. I'll see you right back here, same time next week. And I trust that you all will make this an amazing week. Bye-bye.